everybody, and welcome, finally, to the wedding ceremony of Emily Pipes and Connor Megee. I feared just saying that a strike of lightning would come in the woods, but unfortunately did not. On behalf of the bride and groom, let me share their thanks and appreciation for your flexibility in being here for this very special moment in their lives. This wedding is truly like the season finale of Survivor. Since their engagement, these two have collectively navigated a shingle-induced stroke with months of rehab, a worldwide pandemic, four sets of wedding plans, 3 wedding postponements, and even the remnants of a hurricane. Hashtag cursed wedding, right? But come hell or high water, here we are, and lucky for us, we've all been handpicked as the A-team to bear witness to this culminating event at the end of this wedding planning roller coaster. I know I speak on behalf of everyone here that we are all very honored to be your guests and give you both lots of due credit for the ride you've taken together. I am particularly honored to be your Justice of the Peace today. It was nearly a full year ago when watching a Patriots game on Lilac Court that Connor and Emily made the ask, quite casually I'll mention, for me to be their JP, but I was elated. As most of you know, my connection to Connor and Emily stems back to UMass track and field. After announcing at all the meets in 2012, I got to know Connor and Jim and Lori. And on one of those weekends, I talked Connor into joining me at an alumni event at the Amherst Brewing Company. Really had to twist his arm. And that's when I first met Emily. Incidentally, my wife Beth had run with Emily at UMass and had known her for years. I remember us walking into the bar and Beth exclaimed, "Emily, how do you know Connor?" And she quickly replied, "I know him from dating him." And that's exactly what she did. And over the last 8 years since that moment, the collective friendship between the 4 of us has blossomed and strengthened. We've had great times together, countless laughs. Connor and I share back-to-back birthdays in February and have spent many years celebrating together. We're very close, to the point we've discussed switching spouses, but it's never materialized. But Beth and I would literally lay in traffic for these two. And our boy Chase, who adores Connor, Emily, and Diego, the Coronins are incredibly blessed to have both of you in our lives. Now, UMass track was also part of the connection that led Connor and Emily to each other, but they actually first met in a UMass oceanography class in Hasbro Lab. Now, they were each dating other people when they first met. Not that it mattered, because Emily actually thought Connor was, and I quote, "a bit of a know-it-all." Now, in Connor's defense, they would do crossword puzzles together in class, and Connor knew a lot of the answers. Very good at crosswords. But thankfully for Connor, several of the track girls convinced Emily that Connor was, in fact, a decent guy, and with time, she came to tolerate him. Over the next 2 years, they intermingled within the same social circles, but were nothing more than acquaintances within a larger group. But one night in early of the fall of 2011, after Emily had returned from her semester abroad, Connor got a call at 2 a.m. from their friend Erica Unger. Connor had just closed up the pub at the end of a long bartending shift. He met up with Erica, who then suggested they head to a Frisbee party where Emily was. Connor said, and I quote, "Oh, Emily's there? I'm in." The conversation with Emily that night led to his giving her a ride to watch a friend's soccer game the next week, which then led to a date of sorts at the Worcester Dining Hall. They began meeting up at the library to study, although Connor generally lasted in the library about a half hour, which was just when Emily was getting started, as he tells it. Her senior thesis was a bit of a nightmare, of course. But while Connor got himself to the library for Emily, she also found her way to the pub for Connor. On Thursday nights, you'd find Emily getting free vodka cranberries from bartender Connor. And of course, he also had a prime seat to watch other guys buying drinks for Emily. And he would charge those poor bastards upwards of $14 a drink, a 500% markup for a Western Mass college bar, 2011, and he enjoyed every minute of it. And on Wednesday nights, when Emily would hit up McMurphy's for guitar dudes, which was a rite of passage for all UMass undergrads, Connor was there to pick her up and drive her home. It benefited Emily, of course, that Connor wasn't yet 21 and could be found on Wednesday nights on his own couch in Star Wars pajama pants. So she always had a ride. I should have left that detail out. For weeks on end, their courtship was playful, but neither was sure if it was really serious. Emily wasn't sure if Connor was actually into her, and he wasn't sure if she was really into him. But after a New Year's concert to see Rubble Bucket in Northampton, and a few coffee deliveries thereafter, the official dating began on January 7th, 2012. 4 months later, Emily graduated and found a job in Amherst. That summer of, quote, living with Erica Unger, as she told her parents, turned into secretly living with Connor. Hope I'm not blowing up your spot. Oh, okay. Well, that happened. So, when fall came, Emily moved back home to Winchester, and the weekend drive back and forth on Route 2 became the norm. Fortunately, this very house was the perfect midway point between Amherst and Winchester, and on many a Sunday afternoon, for Patriots games of course, Emily and Connor would hang in that very living room while Lori fawned over Tom Brady on the TV, and Jess, Jim, and Connor would scream violently at the television. You can still hear it now. No way is that passing around. The following spring, Connor graduated and got a job in Northampton, and Emily got into grad school at UMass, bringing them back together again in the cozy confines of Western Mass. And thus began a stint of being, and these are their words, young, stupid, and broke. These were the ramen years, as I call them. Connor worked a lot. Emily studied a lot. They watched Friends and Say Yes to the Dress with Connor a lot. There were lots of $9 pitchers at Brewmaster Jack's, at the Roost, and takeout pizzas from Joe's, but what they lacked in money, they made up for in love. And these are the 2 years that truly made Connor and Emily. From then forward, they were a team, and an unstoppable force to push. They moved back home, then to Somerville and Cambridge, and then buying their first home in Acton. New jobs for Connor, more school, and another degree for Emily. Trips to Wellfleet, of course, Vermont, Norway, and Italy, just to name a few. The adoption of Diego, who is live streaming right now this ceremony back on Lilac Court. And they even became official domestic partners, brought to you by the People's Republic of Cambridge. It came as no surprise to Greg when Connor finally asked his permission to marry Emily. He wisely chose Greg's favorite event of the year, Barnstock, to make the ask. And the very next week, atop Sugar Bush Mountain, Connor popped the question. Even though Emily knew it was coming, freaked out, said yes, and then proceeded to push him into a rock and nearly off the mountain. But after cleaning off the blood, literally pushed him into a rock, they descended the mountain as an engaged couple, and as we know, have climbed up and over several other metaphorical mountains since that day. This 8.5-year journey together has had peaks and valleys, highs and lows, but you have masterfully embraced both ends of that spectrum together as a team. In fact, looking back at all other 24 couples I've married in the last 8 years, I'm not sure anyone is as prepared for marriage as the two of you are, looking back at your journey together. No offense, Doug and Rachel. Today is a major milestone in your life together, happening here, in your very own childhood backyard, surrounded by your very, very closest family and friends. Each of you are who you are because of the experiences you have had with everyone here today. I feel fortunate to have heard some of the many memories you've had with this group. Of Connor growing up, boogie boarding with Bjorn in Nantucket, taking cold car rides to Neshoba with Doug, who thought keeping the heat off in his car would save gas, of listening to Pearl Jam with Jess on the way to wrestling practice in the back of a Honda Civic hatchback. There are countless moments of Emily parenting Hannah and Alex, either on a trampoline or while flipping chairs back at the beach, of Emily's insistence that she be the pink Power Ranger all the time, or of Emily's award-winning role as Hermione to Chris's version of Harry Potter. These collective adolescent experiences led you, of course, to UMass and to each other, but it also led Emily to Connor's family, friends, and Connor to Emily's family. Jim and Lori still remember the first time they met Emily at UMass at a football tailgate, immediately drawn, they tell me, to Emily's smile and quick laugh. And who could forget Connor's first meeting of the Pipes family in a Target, where a then 16-year-old Alex had to literally throw a pack of underwear across the store to get a free hand to introduce himself to Connor. But from those initial moments of your collective worlds combining, we have all been witness to your growth together since then as a couple. Megan has come to adore Connor's thoughtfulness, whether he's offering to swim alongside her and Emily in their kayaks, because there are only two of them, or offering to run several miles to get a car to pick them up. Julie has seen Connor's kindness, always offering to sleep on the couch, so that she and Alexa could share the bed with Emily, though they are both very glad you now have a house with a spare bedroom. Rachel has appreciated having Emily to join her watch Doug and Connor play flag football, and her patience and tolerance as the boys yell violently at elderly officials when things get uber competitive, as they always do. Steph has loved having a partner for revivalist concerts and shopping on the vineyard. Liz looks to you both as a second home, having crashed at your place God knows how many times, always enjoying your excellent assortment of beer and Connor's gourmet meals. Jamie has looked to you as relationship role models, and the advice you've shared that couples as a team work through and normalize growing pains as they go. And all of us have been awed and inspired of how tough you both were after the whole stroke thing, and especially for what an absolute rock of support you were, Emily, through it all. For the millennial generation, which I am admittedly barely a part of, I think young couples look to marriage to do a very different set of things than generations before. Marriage is a voyage of self-discovery. It's about taking time to exert the effort to understand and discover what your partner is trying to achieve in life and what you yourself are trying to achieve in life, and to help each other find the best versions of yourself. I know that everyone here has the confidence that Connor and Emily will do exactly that, because they have and they do. They've grown together as a couple these past 8+ years, but have also grown as individuals, and they assuredly bring out the best versions of themselves in one another. The two of you exude life, energy, fun, and laughter, and it's couples like you that make my job really easy, because you are truly wonderful people and an inspirational couple. As a first-time parent with a 2.5-year-old at home, I can only begin to appreciate how proud your parents are for the people and the couple you have become. I know that Greg, Liz, Jim, and Lori, and Sally are all beaming with pride today watching. And they, along with all of us, are here to support you both in the years to come, and we all look forward to being part of that journey. And with that, I will invite Connor and Emily to state their wedding vows to one another. In promising these vows in the presence of your very closest family and friends, will bind you together as a couple for the years. I'll start with you, and ask you to repeat after me. Connor, you are my family, my love, and my life. Through sickness and in health, and in good times and bad, I promise to cherish your love and friendship, to be your student and your teacher, to help you to be vulnerable and courageous, and to love and respect you for the rest of our days. Connor, Emily, you are my family, my love, and my life. Through sickness and in health, in good times and in bad, I promise to cherish your love and friendship, to be your student and your teacher, to help you to be vulnerable and courageous, and to love and respect you for the rest of our days. at the ready. And this ring will serve as an eternal symbol of your love and commitment to him. And as Emily places this ring on Connor's finger, this will serve as her eternal symbol of love and commitment to Connor. And now that you have stood before me and proclaimed these vows and shared these rings, it is by the power vested in me by the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts that I proudly pronounce you husband and wife, Connor and Megee. So ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, for the very first time, finally, I am honored to introduce to you Mr. and Mrs. Connor and Emily Megee.
If you're gonna tell them everything, tell them I'm a good kisser. Tell them all the things you told me in your desperate whisper. If you're gonna tell them everything, don't leave out the good part. Tell them the way that you broke my heart when you told me that you missed her. Tell them I'm a good kisser. Tell them I'm a good kisser. You know I'm not proud of everything that we
We're all going to
did.
proceed out like that.
Did it work out just the way that you wanted it? After it all, I stood up
I've never been
tall.
in a wedding where everyone pursues that.